You know how sometimes in life you do something so monumentally stupid that you're amazed that you're still alive? Please tell me it's not just me. I have a memory of one of these moments indelibly etched on my memory. From my college years, no less. I know, surprise, surprise. It was the end of Christmas break, and I was headed back down to college for the spring semester. I lived in Colorado Springs, college was in Florida. I was driving down, but on the way, I was going to stop and visit my girlfriend and her family in Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha's about 600 miles from Colorado Springs. It's a little bit of a haul. Now, let me set the stage for you. I was driving a 1980 Toyota Corona. Not Corolla, Corona. And if you know what a Toyota Corona is, you're at least my age and probably older. It was honestly not an amazing vehicle. It had a tiny engine. It had a wimpy little 3-speed transmission. It was the only car that could take 20 minutes to get from 0 to 60, but still only get like 17 miles to the gallon. It was not a great vehicle, but it was mine. And it was what I was taking to get back to college. And of course, remember, this is back in the day. No cell phones, no Google Maps. I had an atlas. I had a wallet with some cash in it. And my parents were like, have fun, call us when you get there. As a side note, isn't it kind of amazing the things that we used to do that now people would be wildly shocked at? How many of you now would drive across the country without a cell phone? Like, if you have recently driven across the country without a cell phone, I want to know. This little car also had an issue that I was just learning about on this trip. It developed a problem where you couldn't drive it for any length of time without it overheating. We never actually got to the bottom of that. Around town, it was fine. Take it on the road for several hours, it developed a problem. Temperature gauge would creep up, it would overheat, you'd have to pull over, let it cool down. And it started happening on that trip out to Nebraska. So here I am driving, pull over here, wait for the car to cool down. Pull over there, wait for the car to cool down. And let me tell you, engines heat up incredibly quickly and they take forever to cool off, especially when the coolant system isn't working correctly, I suppose. It was getting a little nerve-wracking trying to work my way across Nebraska. It was getting later and later in the day. It was cold out. I actually stopped at a Walmart at one point and bought a sleeping bag, a cold weather sleeping bag, so that if I break down, I at least am not dying of hypothermia. This is how much confidence I had in the situation. And I'm calling my girlfriend's family along the way and kind of updating them on the situation and trying to work my way across the state. And there was a point in that journey where things went wrong. And I knew I had to pull over soon, but there wasn't any good spot to do it. There wasn't any services nearby. There was no truck stop or, anything like that. And so I just pulled off at one of those exits it's like a nothing exit. It goes to a road, that goes north and south, but there's nothing there. And I pulled off on this exit, and I went way down the exit before I pulled off on the side of the exit. So I was separated from the interstate by a good amount. People could not see me down there. Down to my south, there was a little empty parking lot with some trucks in it. It's where the truckers would stop and rest, I guess, which is proof that there were no services around. And so I pull over there in the dark, and I pop the hood, and I get out, and I'm looking at the engine, and I'm trying to figure out what I should do. And there was a time before where I had put a little coolant in, and I thought, well, obviously I must have a coolant leak. I'll put some coolant in. This is where, I marvel looking back at how dumb I was. Because if you know anything about engines, you know that you don't take the radiator cap off when the engine is hot. The coolant is boiling, it's pressurized, and there's warnings printed on the cap. You're not supposed to do this. I knew this. I'm pretty sure I knew this at that point in my life, but I wasn't thinking about it at that time. I was thinking, how can I get across this state in the dark? How can I get off this exit where I'm alone and by myself and cold? How can I keep moving? I know. I will add some coolant to my vehicle. And so I reach down and I put my hand on the radiator cap and I twist. Just as everyone knows it will do, it explodes. Boiling coolant like a geyser everywhere. The cap shoots off with enough force to do serious damage to me. It doesn't hit me. Now, here's the miracle. I don't get hit by the cap. I don't get hit by the boiling coolant. I stumble back. I'm a little disoriented. I realize what happened, and it sinks in what an incredible idiot I was. And this, I look back on this moment and I just see like the preserving mercy of God over my life, because I feel like I was this close to being blinded and scalded, way off the exit in the dark by myself, blindly work my way over a fence and walk south and hope that I hit that parking lot with the truckers so I can bang on one. It makes me cringe thinking about what happened that night. I added some coolant, and then I couldn't find the radiator cap. It was gone, and I had a bolt of inspiration, which I think was the nudge of God, to move the vehicle a couple of feet, and the radiator cap, which had landed somewhere in the engine, fell down to the pavement underneath the car. So I was able to get it out, put it on, and then limp my vehicle to a truck stop where I called my girlfriend's family, and they spent several hours driving west to come and pick me up. I did end up marrying their daughter, so they didn't waste their time. I didn't marry her out of a sense of obligation for that moment, just to be clear. Oh, I think this happens to us more than we realize in life. I really do. That there's these moments where we come very close to a tragedy, and some of them are really obvious, like mine, and some of them I think we're never even that aware of. But the preserving hand of God keeps us from experiencing a tragedy in the moment. I mean, the takeaway here, I guess, is when you're in a situation that's high stakes, slow down and use your head and don't do anything stupid. But really also just thank God that we are not the ones who are truly in control and looking out for us. That's my thought for today. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but do with it what you will.